Hey, what's up, everyone? Seale here from Upside Strength. In this presentation, we're going to be looking at a three-phase approach to contact prep for amateur rugby. So why contact prep? Why would we want to go through that process of incrementally getting ready for the tackling, the scrummaging, the rucking that we have to do in the game? First of all, we want to condition the body for the demands of the sport. Okay, so everything that it entails, which I just listed, in addition to tackling and lifting in a line out, all those things needs preparation. We can't just go from sitting on a couch to tackling full speed. And so it's important to condition the body, especially the upper body in that case, to get ready for those impacts. We want to also provide a progressive approach to contact from a mental or psychological perspective. It's hard for some players, especially if they're young, especially if they're inexperienced, to deal with the demands of a tackle and of contact. And so by using a progressive approach, we can ensure that all the boxes are checked and that they get to the full contact phase, ready mentally to do the work that's going to be required because they took the appropriate steps beforehand. Oftentimes when somebody is afraid of tackling, it's because they don't control, or they don't control the skill as well as they could. So by teaching them that skill progressively, we increase the chances of success down the road. And obviously we want to prevent injuries. Okay, if we go again from sitting on the couch to a full-on tackle, there's a lot of risks there. There's the speed that involves, there's the contraction, the muscular contraction involved, and we don't want to get hurt. So we're going to use that progressive approach. We're going to do that in three phases, like I said in the title. Phase one, that I call contact preparation. We want a predictable environment. Okay, so we don't have any external disturbances or anything pushing us around. It's us, our body, and we're learning to control it, usually on the ground, as you can see on that picture here in kind of that bear position. We want to progress things from simple to complex, from slow to fast, and from short to long in terms of duration. If we talk specifically about exercises, I'll let you know how we progress those just after. So to give you a few examples here, first exercise, we have a bear step back. So that would be a fairly beginner progression of the movement. Next, we have here a one-arm bear jump back. And so that's already a little bit more advanced, pretty demanding on the upper body and on the midsection in terms of trunk stability. So that's a variation. Just showing you a few examples here. We have a side plank to one-arm plank with a dynamic transition. So you can think of a handoff here that's being performed, learning to control your body with the floor first before you control opponents. Last one here is just a bear backwards hop. So it's like a bear crawl, but instead you're hopping. So how you would select and progress those exercises, a few points. You can decrease the number of ground contact points. That's going to make the exercise more complicated. You can increase the number of limbs moving simultaneously. You can increase the speed of movement, so go from slow to continuous to explosive in that sequence. You can increase the complexity of the movement, and again, increase the total volume per session. I'll link at the top the playlist with all the exercises that you can use. There's over 40 different options. So just pick the appropriate ones and progress them following the criteria that I just outlined. Here's a sample circuit for phase one. So for example, in here, we're going to be doing 3 sets of 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. The 30 seconds of work are made up of 3 different exercises: a bear crawl forward for 10 seconds, followed right away by a bear crawl backwards for 10 seconds, and finally a single arm bear to bridge. Again, all of those are in the playlist that I linked just previously, so make sure you use that resource. So you're going to be doing that 3 times for 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. That's a pretty safe place to start, probably even for kids. Maybe you want to make it a little bit shorter for the kids, or give them a little break between each exercise, but it's a good way to start. Progress with more sets, longer work, or shorter rests. And here's a little sample 6-session progression with that phase one. So you can see the structure at the bottom here. On the first session, you would do, like I outlined, 1 circuit, 3 sets of 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. The second session, we go up to 4 sets. Third session, we go up to 5 sets, and then we transition to 2 circuits now instead of 1, and we bump up the work to 40 seconds, and the rest down to 20 seconds. And so what you do here is you just bump up from 10 to 13 seconds per exercise, or you do 4 exercises of 10 seconds each. That's totally up to you. You can play it however you want, and just progress that in a logical way all the way through. And if you only have 3 sessions to do phase 1, then you could do session 2, 4, and 6. So you would start with 1 circuit of 4 by 30, 30, then 2 circuits of 3 by 40, 20, and then finish with 2 circuits of 5 by 40, 20. So that's for phase 1 with the exercises and the progressions. Phase 2, we're going to get into wrestling and grappling. So now we have a reactive environment because we have someone else that we're working with or against. Same general idea in terms of progression: simple to complex, slow to fast, short to long in duration. A few examples of exercise that you can use. So here we have a bear mirror. So you put yourself in a bear position, the heads are not touching, and you just try to mirror the opponent as one leads and turns and the other one tries to stay facing. It's pretty demanding. It doesn't seem that hard, but it's pretty demanding for the guys. Here you have a close-up kneeling ball rip. What I try to do with those is that I encourage them not to rip the ball out, but just to both hang on to the ball really tight and try to just work each other around with the ball. Okay, so the goal in that one is not necessarily to steal the ball. It's more to try and move the opponent through the ball and try to remain ourselves on our stable knees. Here in that case, it can be done from the feet as well as a progression. Here we have the third one. So it's a 1v1 scrum drive, I would call that. And you can have 2 arms up. I found that the best is usually 1 arm up on the opponent, bound to the opponent, and 1 arm on the floor for stability, or 1 hand on the floor for stability. And the goal is just to drive the other person back. And here's the last example. And the person on the bottom has to try and stand up, and the person on the top has to try and prevent them from standing up. Again, I'm going to link at the top a playlist with about 50 exercises they can pick from in that category. If you want to progress those step by step, you want to progress from ground to kneeling to standing, depending on the exercise that you're using. You also want to progress the stance. So you could tell them that, for example, in the case of the ball rip, you could do that standing, but you could do that statically. So you say that they have to keep their feet into the ground. You could do that, progress that to dynamic work, where they're allowed to move their feet and they're allowed to try and move each other, which does make it a little bit harder and more intense. You can increase the reactivity. So it's either one person working at the start or a 1v1 where they're constantly working one against the other or one with the other. You can increase the work time. I'd usually go from 4 to 5 seconds all the way to 10, maybe 12 seconds, depending on the situation. And then again, total work per session, volume per session can be increased. So sample structure for that kind of work, you can see it changes quite a bit from phase 1 because the intensity has gone up quite a bit in the exercises. So what we're going to do is we're going to reduce the work time. Here we're at 6 seconds of work and 24 seconds of rest. Again, those are just examples. You can modify them at your will. If you want to give more rest to begin with, you can absolutely do that and work on some handling ball skills in the meantime. That's an option. 4 exercises here that I showed before: bear mirror, ground hold, scrum 1v1, drive, and back-to-back drive, which we saw in the picture previously. So you could use those 4 exercises. On each one, you do 6 seconds of work, 24 seconds of rest. That's a 30-second round. And you could do each one, the 4 of those one after the other, which gives you a 2-minute set. And after that set, you take a little break. You do that 3 times. So you end up with 6 minutes plus maybe 1 or 2 minutes of rest between the sets. So under 10 minutes, you can get some good work done with the whole team, 1v1, 2 people working together at a time, and get some good work done. As a sample progression here that I outlined over 6 sessions, again, start with 2 sets, 3 exercises, 6 on, 24 off, progress to 4 exercises, then progress to 3 sets. Then you can progress the work time a little bit, 10 seconds of work, 24 seconds of rest. If you see that they can't maintain the intensity on the 10 seconds, then maybe you need to reduce that to 8. Maybe you need to push the rest time. That's again for you to see what's the most appropriate way to tailor that to your team, your level, your players. And as at the end here, we end up with 2 sets, 5 exercises, 12 seconds on, 30 seconds off. 12 seconds being a long time in a combat situation. So that would really be kind of the peak in terms of work time. But again, it can be totally decreased to 10 to 8, depending on the situation. If you only have 3 sessions available to run phase 2, you can use, again, session 2, 4, and 6 as an example. Then we get into full contact. So now we're in a rugby environment. Again, and that's going to be more the job of the technical tactical coach, who's going to take care of that aspect of it. If you are a physical prep and you're working in concert with your rugby coaches, then maybe there's a case for a conversation being had around that topic as to, okay, am I just doing phase 1 and phase 2 as a physical prep and then giving them to you kind of for phase 3, or do I have, as a physical prepper, enough knowledge and the skills to teach the guys and the gals how to tackle, and then can I maybe include that in the physical prep as well? That's a conversation that needs to be had with the sports coaches. But no matter what, we're going towards the true demands of the sport, which are going to be tackling. But again, we can progress that intelligently. Start on the ground, start on your knees, start with the opponent close by, and then progress to farther distances from contact, ball carrier from static to dynamic, increase the number of repetitions performed in a row, etc., etc. But again, that's more in the rugby side of things. But again, the job with phase 1 and 2 is to get people ready for phase 3 so that they don't get hurt for phase 3, and that mentally they're ready as well for the demands. If you want to learn a little bit more about all this, I highly recommend you check out this video that I extracted from the podcast I recorded with Andy Ryland, who's a tackle expert who worked with Rugby USA and now works with USA Football. Talk about the skill of tackling in and of itself, the key components of it, how to progress it. Very interesting conversation. So again, make sure you check out that video. If you have any questions about the presentation in and of itself, the material that I outlined, feel free to ask your questions in the comments below the video. I'll be happy to answer them. And until next time, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share with your friends, your colleagues, teammates, coaches. The more you can spread that information, the better. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon for the next video. See ya.